You're in three family group chats, two neighborhood threads, and someone from your kid's sports team it pings you at 10 o'clock at night. And someone replies, "Thank you" to that message from Tuesday. You know who's texting and you know why the text threads exist, but you can't predict how your phone might treat them and how it might be different than the last one. And why can't I leave one group but not another? And some threads get read receipts, and some will have sharp photos, while others feel like it's a fax machine from the 1990s. And why does one friend always show up in a different color bubble? Well, these are all great questions, and today we're going to walk through each one of them. Not so that you can become an engineer and understand exactly how messaging works, but that you can tell what kind of conversation you landed in, where the mute button lives, and how to get your evenings back. Welcome to Your Tech Makeover, the podcast that gives you tips and tricks to help you simplify and get more out of the technology in your life. I'm your host, Frank Bravo. Today's topic is group texting and how messages really move between iPhones and Android phones. I want you to leave knowing why these chats feel different from threads to thread, how simple cross-platform texting now works between phones that are on current software, and where maybe Google Chat is a better fit than texting when someone's phone number just doesn't make sense. Or there are other apps that maybe do the same thing. And then a few simple ways to quiet the noise without ghosting everyone. So let's open it up with your app that you use every day for texting. There's often one kind of technology hiding behind that single icon. The app looks like a conversation starter, and it depends on which device you're using and what the carrier actually supports. Then it picks the best option that everyone in the thread can use. You're almost never handed a menu that says, well, send this type to type A to this person and this one to type B to this other person. The device just decides, and that alone explains a lot of the whiplash we all feel between chats. On Android, Google Message is where most of this is hidden. It's plain telephone network texting when it has to be. It's richer text when you have to use something a little bit more advanced. And then the phone supports maybe RCS, which is a newer carrier-backed standard that Google helped popularize. That is the lane where the current iPhone meets Android with a few compromises, but it's much better than it used to be. On an iPhone, the built-in message app is Messages, and it does the same work with Apple's own label on top of it. When everyone is on an Apple device, it can keep everything in the iMessage world, and those are the blue text buttons. When Android is in the mix, it may land in the older carrier texting layer or use the RCS that I just spoke about. Depending on which type everybody in the network is using, then that is what it's going to choose. But it's always going to be a green bubble if it is with an Android device. So that's why one group feels slick while another one feels 10 years behind. It's not because you forgot how to text. It's simply that the thread landed in a different layer. So the oldest layer of all this, and this is a little review for us that have been around for a while, is SMS. And that stands for short plain messages. It actually stands for short message service. It's been around since the early 90s. When you send a picture or longer message through the same tool, it actually travels through MMS, which is a multiple messaging service. You don't need to remember that, but it's good to know that it's there. When a whole group is on the older path, every phone shares that same limit. Reactions fall off, the photos go soft, and the threads can feel like they're 10-year behind. It's because it's the lowest common denominator effect. If everyone in the thread uses an iPhone, iPad, or Mac with iMessage turned on, and you're on an iPhone, Apple can keep the conversations on their own internet-based service, which is not in the older network path. That's why people usually mean by the blue bubble chat. If you get the quality of life pieces people are expecting now, such as the typing indicators, the sharp photos, the easier behavior in bigger groups, this is Apple's encrypted message device that allows the messages to fly through their own services. Groups get messy when memberships change. If you add a typical Android phone to that same thread, it can't stay on iMessage anymore. The whole group must go over to the older texting or maybe to RCS. Either way, the behavior changes for everyone, not just the person on Android. And a quick note about leaving the group. On an Apple device, leaving the group usually means that you're still in the Apple only mode. If the conversation has already switched to the carrier side and you're using RCS or SMS, Apple can't pull you out of that same list the same way. A quick shout out to listeners like you who help make Your Tech Makeover possible. Your support helps keep this podcast going, and I truly appreciate it. Want to contribute? Just click the link in the show notes or visit yourtechmakeover.com. Plus, as a thank you, supporters who give $25 or more will get $25 off a one-time consultation with me to help you simplify your tech. Thanks for being part of the Your Tech Makeover community. Now, back to what I was saying. For years, the story on Android has been that Google Messages adds a lot more modern chat feel on top of the regular phone numbers using a standard called RCS. Now, I mentioned this before, Rich Communication Services. Media looks better, typing bubbles show up in many cases, and the whole thing feels less dated. Apple brought along RCS to the iPhone Messages app so that now mixed threads don't always land in SMS mode. The carrier and the region still matters, so if you're not seeing RCS, it might be because of your carrier. But the direction is clear. Mixed threads are nicer than they used to be. Here's the piece that I want you to remember though, especially if you have heard that every green bubble chat is wide open by default. With iOS 26.5, Apple has added end-to-end encryption in RCS messaging. This is something Android has had for a long time, but Apple has finally gotten on board with it. And it is included with recent Google Messages as well. You should see a little lock icon when protection is activated, but it only works if everyone in the group is on the most up-to-date version of the software. So the real privacy upgrade between brands, and it's really great so that everything stays current. And it's a good reason why you should stay current as well. It is still not identical to iMessage that all chats are in the Apple-only ecosystem, but you're not stuck between a conversation and basic privacy the way you once were. Google Chat is worth mentioning as well. This is different than Messages. So Chat is chatting with Google, which is somewhat true, but you don't need a texting phone number. Google Chat is tied to your Google account, the same way that iMessage is tied to your Apple account. People often see it at work through Google Workspace or in your personal life if somebody starts a conversation inside Gmail or a chat app. You invite people by identity, email, or link, not by a phone number associated with the device. For a soccer team or family reunion, Google Chat might be a great organizational space, that threads the history together. Maybe for Aunt Pat, who doesn't install new things, the path of least resistance is still using the text app that came with her phone, however. If you have already a chaotic group text message, moving the thing to Google Chat or another app might be the kindest move, as long as you help stragglers along with that one-time setup. You can know every label in the world and every acronym, and you still can't figure out how to turn down the noise. Here's a few steps to help you do that. On an iPhone, you might want to open up the group, tap on the names at the top, and look for the hide alerts. That's the mute switch for this thread. If it still shows the notification badge, which is good, the little dot on the app icon, but it quiets the sound. You can also dig through your settings and notifications and messages, and you can actually tune the previews, the badges, or whatever alert nags you awake. On Android, you want to open up that conversation in the Message app, tap the three dots on the profile area, and choose your option like mute or customize. Again, it's going to depend on the phone maker and the Google account that you're using, but it's all basically the same idea. The thread is a lower priority on the phone, and it will kind of make things in the background. If you cannot leave an SMS group, muting is your ethical off-ramp. You're not rude by doing this, you're only matching the tool to your attention. For groups that truly need coordination, pick one spot on purpose. We plan to use this app for this and only use texting for that. It really makes the clarity better than having 4,000 messages just because somebody wants a pizza topping. You should not need a decoder ring to message your family and friends. The technology should be the tool in the background while the people stay interesting in the foreground. When you think about your busiest group threads, is stress mostly about the notifications or not knowing whether everyone's on the same plan? I would love to hear which side you feel is heavier for you. Let me know, and as always, if you have topics that you'd like me to cover, please feel free to contact me via email at frank@yourtechmakeover.com. That's it for now. Thanks for listening to Your Tech Makeover. If you haven't done so already, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast. Click that button right now. If you don't mind leaving a review, I would really appreciate it as well. If you're on Substack, make sure you subscribe to the newsletter so you're alerted of new content as it's posted. You can also check out yourtechmakeover.com where you can see more information about this and other episodes. And if you want to find out more about me, please visit bravoitc.com. Until next time, I'm Frank Bravo, and this has been Your Tech Makeover.